In a remote part of Nevada, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows over the Rocky Mountains. Jake Collins, a young and curious scientist, adjusted his binoculars and scanned the horizon. Something was wrong. The air shimmered strangely, as if the heat itself was alive. The wind carried a scent that was not of this world, a mixture of smoke and sulfur that made his stomach turn. Jake pointed toward the mountains. "Do you see that?" he said to Linda Taylor, the team's leader. Linda, calm but alert, squinted at the shadows moving across the rocks. At first, they thought it was a trick of the light, but the shapes were too distinct, too deliberate. There was no mistaking them now. Massive creatures soared above the peaks, their scales catching the morning sun and reflecting it like molten metal. The scientists froze, unable to believe their eyes. Dragons, real dragons alive and breathing fire, had appeared on Earth. Panic rippled through the small team, but Linda quickly took control. "We need to stay calm. Gather the equipment, prepare defenses," she ordered, her voice firm. Humans were small, fragile against such powerful beings, but Linda's confidence gave them hope. Jake and the others moved quickly, setting up whatever they could use as a barrier. Their weapons were rudimentary, mostly designed for research, but in their minds they would do anything to survive. The dragons circled, watching them, curious and menacing. Their eyes glowed like embers, and their wings created gusts strong enough to knock a man off his feet. The first attack came suddenly. Fire licked across the dry grass, and the humans scattered. Jake felt the heat singe his hair and smelled the acrid smoke. They fired back with whatever artillery they could muster, aiming not to kill but to scare and confuse. Amazingly, it worked. One dragon screeched in surprise and veered off, narrowly missing a cliff edge. Linda shouted instructions, directing the team with precision. They formed a tight line, combining human strategy with instinctive courage. Despite the fear and chaos, humans found moments of clarity, making decisions quickly and working as one. Even the smallest actions counted. Moving a crate to block fire, pulling a teammate out of the way, signaling with hand gestures. Jake noticed that dragons, though enormous and strong, could be distracted and manipulated. They had intelligence, yes, but humans had ingenuity and teamwork. This realization gave him a flicker of hope. Perhaps humans were not as helpless as they appeared. He shouted to Linda, "We can hold them off." She nodded, smiling briefly despite the danger. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of fire, smoke, and roars. The dragons tested the humans, circling and probing their defenses. Jake kept thinking about how fragile they were, how easily they could be crushed, but also about the resilience he saw in the team. Each person, from the youngest in turn to Linda herself, contributed something critical. It was not brute strength that kept them alive, but coordination, courage, and quick thinking. Finally, the dragons retreated, gliding toward the mountains as if considering their next move. The humans were exhausted, covered in soot and sweat, but they had survived. Jake collapsed to the ground, staring at the sky. He felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. They had faced monsters from legends and lived to see another day. Linda gathered the team. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We need to prepare. We need to understand them, study them, and find ways to protect ourselves." The others nodded, realizing the truth in her words. Humanity had met a predator far beyond anything they had imagined, and this encounter would change everything. Jake looked at the mountains where the dragons had disappeared. The sunlight reflected off the rocks, creating shadows that looked almost alive. He thought about the work ahead, studying, learning, preparing, but also about the courage that had carried them through the first contact. They had been prey, yes, but they had fought back. They had survived. The desert around them was silent now, except for the crackling of small fires they had set as barriers. The wind carried the scent of smoke and danger, reminding them that this victory was only temporary. Humans had faced the unknown and discovered that survival depended not on size or strength, but on mind, heart, and the willingness to fight together. Jake knew sleep would not come easily. Images of dragons' glowing eyes and scorching fire haunted him, but he also felt a sense of determination. If dragons thought humans were easy prey, they were wrong. Humans could adapt, learn, and retaliate. The first contact had ended, but the war was only beginning. And humanity, for the first time, realized it had a chance to hunt back. After the first encounter, humans retreated to a safer location to regroup and plan. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, and the team of scientists and soldiers realized that surviving the dragons would require more than courage. They needed strategy and alliances. Sarah Mitchell, a biologist who had been quietly observing dragon behavior, suggested studying them carefully. "We need to understand how they think and move," she said. "If we can predict their actions, we can defend ourselves better and maybe even take the fight to them." Linda nodded. "We also need more people. If there are others who have survived dragon attacks, we should find them. Every pair of hands counts." The team split into small groups. Jake and Sarah went to a nearby town where dragons had attacked before, looking for survivors. They found a few frightened civilians and a couple of other scientists who had been tracking unusual weather patterns, which they now realized were linked to dragon movements. Meanwhile, Linda, Adam Lee, and Karen Brooks prepared defense positions and tested their weapons. They experimented with traps and devices, combining human ingenuity with the limited technology available. They were careful to learn from each encounter, improving their tactics for the next confrontation. One evening, as they camped in a canyon, a figure appeared from the shadows. He introduced himself as Ethan Cole, a former military scout who had been tracking dragon activity for months. Ethan shared critical intelligence. Dragons were not mindless. They had patterns, hierarchies, and communication methods that humans could exploit. Jake and Linda realized that Ethan's knowledge was invaluable. Together, they mapped dragon territories and devised ambush strategies. Civilians like Tom Benson and Olivia Hayes contributed by building traps and lookout points, learning quickly how to act under pressure. The team conducted small skirmishes to test their new tactics. Using drones and simple diversion tools, they managed to distract dragons long enough to protect settlements and gather more information. Every successful encounter boosted morale and proved that humans could fight back with intelligence and teamwork. Sarah continued to study dragon behavior, noting how they reacted to certain sounds, lights, and movements. She shared her findings with the team, helping them refine their strategies. Linda led exercises that combined human coordination with technological advantages, emphasizing adaptability. As humans prepared for larger conflicts, it became clear that surviving against dragons would not be just about strength but about learning, planning, and forming alliances. They discovered that when humans worked together, combining brains, courage, and resourcefulness, they could match creatures once thought unstoppable. By the time they were ready to move out for their next encounter, the team felt stronger and more united. They were no longer just reacting. They were anticipating, planning, and preparing to hunt back. The dragons had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would be crucial in the battles ahead. Humans were ready for their first coordinated strike against the dragons. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, Adam Lee, Karen Brooks, and their team gathered at dawn, their faces set with determination. They had studied dragon movements, tested traps, and prepared for every possible challenge. The dragons had returned to the mountains, confident and unaware of human plans. As humans approached, they moved in silence, using the terrain to hide their positions. Sarah's observations about dragon behavior proved critical. She had noticed that dragons tended to fly in specific patterns and were most vulnerable during certain maneuvers. The first attack began with drones creating distractions in the sky. Sparks and lights confused the dragons, making them shift their flight paths. Jake and Adam coordinated artillery strikes, aiming not to kill, but to drive the dragons into designated zones where traps and nets waited. One dragon swooped down, breathing fire, and the humans scattered behind rocks and barricades. Linda signaled, and the team triggered a net, snagging the dragon's wing. It screeched and struggled, but it could not break free. Humans had caught it without lethal force, demonstrating both control and precision. The other dragons reacted aggressively, diving toward the humans. Ben Carter and Alice Moore, Soldiers with nerves of steel fired synchronized shots and set off small explosions to create barriers. Each human acted with calculated timing, moving together like a single organism. Despite their immense size and strength, the dragons were confused and off balance. Jake realized that while they were powerful predators, they could be outsmarted by coordination and careful planning. Every trap and distraction worked in favor of the humans, showing that intelligence and teamwork could match raw power. Hours passed with back-and-forth skirmishes. Humans learned quickly, adapting to unexpected dragon tactics. They observed how dragons communicated with roars and gestures, using that knowledge to anticipate attacks. Even minor adjustments in positioning and timing made a difference, saving lives and capturing targets. By the end of the day, the humans had achieved a partial victory. They had driven the dragons back and captured one for study. Morale was high. Jake and Linda gathered the team to reflect on the day's events. "This shows what we can do when we work together," Linda said. "Dragons may be strong, but humans are clever. We can fight back." Sarah carefully documented the dragon's behavior during the encounter, noting weaknesses and patterns that would inform future strategies. Adam and Karen worked on improving traps and defenses, learning from what had succeeded and failed. The first strike ended not in total conquest but in understanding. Humans had faced the dragons head-on and had survived, even achieving small victories. It became clear that by combining courage, planning, and ingenuity, humans could challenge creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. The stage was set for greater confrontations, and humans were ready to hunt back. The dragons did not forget the humans' first strike. They returned with vengeance, soaring over human settlements and leaving trails of fire and smoke. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, and the team prepared for what they knew would be a dangerous confrontation. Humans had learned from their previous encounter. Drones patrolled the skies, and observation towers provided early warnings. Civilians helped by fortifying homes and setting up small defensive traps around the town. Tom Benson and Olivia Hayes worked tirelessly, moving supplies and coordinating safe zones for families. When dragons swooped down, humans were ready. Soldiers like Ben Carter and Alice Moore took positions to intercept aerial attacks. Artillery and fire suppression devices protected the town from flames. The dragons were fierce, breathing fire and demonstrating agility that could easily overwhelm unprepared humans. But humans had learned to anticipate their movements. Sarah noticed patterns in dragon behavior that allowed humans to predict when they would dive or change direction. Jake coordinated with Linda to time distractions and traps, guiding the dragons away from civilians. Humans acted with precision, their coordination growing stronger with each encounter. Close encounters tested everyone's courage. Adam Lee and Karen Brooks moved quickly, setting off small explosive charges to divert dragon attention. Civilians assisted by triggering smoke signals and warning systems. Every member of the community contributed, turning fear into focused action. The battle raged through the afternoon. Dragons tried to break human defenses, but humans adapted continuously. They learned to think like hunters, using strategy instead of sheer strength. Each dragon that faltered or retreated strengthened human morale and confidence. By evening, the skies were clear, though smoke still lingered over the town. Humans had survived another deadly encounter. Jake and Linda gathered the team to discuss the day's lessons. "We have to keep learning," Linda said. "Dragons are powerful, but we are clever. We will use what we know to protect our homes and strike back when needed." Sarah recorded dragon movements and reactions, while Adam and Karen improved traps and defenses. Civilians returned to repairing damage, but their spirits were lifted. The experience showed that humans could adapt, protect each other, and face even the most terrifying predators with courage and intelligence. Humans had faced fire and shadows, and they had survived. Every battle taught them more about the dragons and about themselves. They were no longer just defending. They were preparing to hunt back. The bond between soldiers, scientists, and civilians grew stronger, united by a shared understanding. When dragons thought humans were prey, they had underestimated the power of determination, intelligence, and teamwork. Humans had learned much about dragons, but the heart of their lair remained a mystery. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, Adam Lee, Karen Brooks, and Ethan Cole planned a reconnaissance mission to uncover it. They moved cautiously through rugged canyons, knowing that the dragons could spot them from miles away. The team navigated treacherous cliffs and narrow passes, avoiding dragon scouts patrolling the area. Each step required careful planning, and they relied on maps drawn from previous observations. Sarah noted the changes in dragon behavior as they approached the hidden valley, suggesting they were becoming more protective and alert. Inside the canyon, the team discovered signs of the dragon's nesting grounds. Smoke and fire-marked rocks indicated recent activity, and the scent of sulfur grew stronger. Linda led the team carefully, emphasizing stealth and observation over direct confrontation. They knew that one mistake could cost them their lives. As they advanced, they came upon a clearing filled with dragon eggs. The sheer number of eggs amazed and terrified them. It was clear that the dragons had a complex social structure, with territories and protective hierarchies. Ethan explained that attacking the lair directly could provoke a deadly retaliation, and humans had to be cautious. Jake and Sarah carefully documented the eggs and surroundings, while Adam and Karen set up hidden observation points. They observed the dragons' routines, noting when the adults left and returned, how they communicated, and how they reacted to disturbances. This intelligence was critical for planning future missions. Despite the danger, the team made progress. They discovered that the dragon's strength lay not only in fire and flight, but in their coordination and alertness. However, humans realized that by studying patterns and predicting behavior, they could gain an advantage. The reconnaissance mission culminated in a narrow escape. As they collected data, a large dragon returned unexpectedly. Linda signaled the team to retreat. Using a combination of terrain knowledge, distractions, and quick movement, the humans escaped the valley just in time. Their hearts pounded, but their spirits remained strong. Back at their base, the team analyzed the information they had gathered. Sarah's observations and Ethan's expertise provided insights into dragon behavior and vulnerabilities. Jake and Linda began formulating plans for more strategic interventions, focusing on intelligence and precision rather than brute force. The hidden lair revealed that dragons were not mindless monsters but intelligent predators with protective instincts. Humans understood that survival required not just courage but cunning, careful observation, and teamwork. The mission strengthened their resolve. They were no longer just defending themselves, they were learning, planning, and preparing to hunt back with purpose and strategy. The dragons, enraged by human incursions into their territory, launched a massive counterattack. Entire forests burned as their fiery breath swept across the landscape. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, and the team prepared for the onslaught, knowing that survival depended on speed, intelligence, and coordination. Civilians evacuated under the guidance of Tom Benson and Olivia Hayes, who helped establish safe routes and emergency shelters. Soldiers like Ben Carter and Alice Moore positioned themselves strategically to intercept dragon flights. Human ingenuity was at its peak, combining simple traps with advanced technology to mitigate the dragon's destructive power. As dragons approached, humans used the terrain to their advantage. Narrow valleys and rocky outcrops limited the dragon's flight maneuvers, forcing them into predictable paths. Jake coordinated with Linda to set synchronized defenses and ambush points, while Sarah monitored dragon behavior to predict attacks. Despite their immense strength, the dragons were repeatedly caught in human-engineered traps and distractions. Explosions and netting disoriented the attackers, allowing humans to defend key areas effectively. Adam Lee and Karen Brooks led teams that set precise countermeasures, ensuring minimal civilian casualties. The battle stretched through the day. Humans adapted constantly, using quick thinking and teamwork to counter the dragon's aggression. Each engagement taught them more about the creature's patterns, strengths, and weaknesses. The humans' ability to learn quickly became their greatest weapon. By nightfall, the immediate threat had been neutralized. Though fires still burned and the landscape was scarred, humans had held their ground. Jake and Linda gathered the team to review the day's lessons. Dragons are powerful, But we are resilient and clever, Linda said. We've shown that we can fight back, and we will continue to do so. Sarah documented the dragon's movements and reactions, while Adam and Karen improved defensive measures for future encounters. Civilians returned to begin rebuilding, their spirits strengthened by witnessing human courage and ingenuity. The retaliation highlighted the growing strength and unity of humanity. By anticipating attacks, coordinating defenses, and learning quickly, humans demonstrated that even the mightiest predators could be challenged. Dragons had underestimated human resilience, and humanity had proven it could survive, adapt, and fight back with determination and intelligence. Humans prepared for a decisive confrontation. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, Adam Lee, Karen Brooks, Ethan Cole, Ben Carter, Alice Moore, Tom Benson, and Olivia Hayes gathered at the edge of the dragon's territory. Every member knew this mission could change the course of the conflict. Using intelligence gathered from previous encounters and reconnaissance, humans devised a coordinated strategy. Drones created diversions in the sky, leading dragons into narrow valleys where traps were set. Jake and Adam positioned artillery and nets to intercept dragon flights, while Linda directed teams to control the perimeter. The dragons arrived powerful and aggressive. Flames lit the sky as they descended, but humans were ready. Soldiers acted with precision, setting off explosive charges and triggering traps. Sarah signaled changes based on observed dragon behavior, keeping humans a step ahead. Every movement was calculated, every action coordinated. One dragon attempted a direct attack, but Ben and Alice intercepted it, using nets and synchronized charges to disrupt its flight. Another swooped toward civilians, but Tom and Olivia had already guided them to safety and activated barriers to redirect the dragon. Humans worked together seamlessly, blending courage with strategy. As the battle intensified, humans cornered key dragons. Linda led a team into the heart of the valley, using terrain knowledge and traps to limit dragon movement. Ethan provided crucial intelligence, identifying weaknesses in the dragon's patterns. Each member of the team executed their role perfectly, demonstrating teamwork and bravery. By the end of the mission, humans had neutralized the primary threats without unnecessary destruction. The dragons were defeated or driven away, their dominance challenged. Humans had not only survived but had proven they could hunt back effectively. Jake looked over the battlefield, noting the courage and coordination displayed by every team member. Linda gathered the group, proud of their achievement. "We've shown that humans are not prey," she said. "We are hunters. Together we can face any challenge." Sarah documented the encounter, recording dragon behavior and tactics for future reference. The team celebrated cautiously, aware that while this battle was won, vigilance would always be necessary. Humans had transformed from reactive survivors to skilled hunters, capable of matching and surpassing even the most formidable predators. With the dragons defeated or driven away, humans began to survey the battlefield. Jake Collins, Linda Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, Adam Lee, Karen Brooks, Ethan Cole, Ben Carter, Alice Moore, Tom Benson, and Olivia Hayes walked through the scorched terrain, noting the remnants of fire and battle. Despite the destruction, a sense of accomplishment filled the air. The experience had changed everyone. Humans had discovered the strength that came from unity, intelligence, and courage. Survivors returned to their homes, repairing damage and helping communities rebuild. Civilians and soldiers alike shared stories of bravery and ingenuity, strengthening bonds and inspiring resilience. Jake reflected on the first encounter in the ashes, remembering the fear and chaos they had faced. Now, humans had transformed that fear into strategy, teamwork, and confidence. Linda emphasized the importance of learning from the experience. "We are stronger together," she said. "We have faced monsters and survived. We must continue to learn and prepare for the future." Sarah documented the dragon's behavior for scientific records, ensuring that future generations could understand and anticipate similar threats. Adam and Karen improved defensive measures and traps, applying lessons learned from every encounter. Ethan provided strategic guidance for maintaining vigilance in the dragon territory. The civilians, including Tom and Olivia, returned to daily life, inspired by the courage they had witnessed. Communities rebuilt stronger and more organized, knowing that human resilience could overcome even the greatest dangers. Humans had faced predators thought unstoppable and survived. They had learned to adapt, plan, and act with precision. The dragons had believed humans were prey, but humans had proven otherwise. They had become hunters, capable of facing the most formidable opponents with courage, intelligence, and unity. As the sun set over the mountains, the team looked toward the horizon, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The ashes of the past encounters reminded them of their journey, but the future was theirs to protect and defend. Humanity had faced the impossible and emerged stronger, proving that when threatened, humans could hunt back and prevail against any odds.